Let's talk about family entertainment. You're about to hear the latest trends, expert insights, and behind-the-scenes stories of family fun centers. We'll be talking with arcade vendors, food vendors, attraction vendors, plus sharing life stories of owner-operators and much more. Stay tuned for engaging and informative content that will keep you coming back for more. And now, here's your host, Jeff Pierce of Atomic City Family Fun Center with the FEC World Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Once again, welcome to the FEC World Podcast. I am Jeff Pierce, and we are here to help you with all things family entertainment. Whether you're just starting out, thinking about getting in the business, or you've been in business for several years and it's time to make that change, I've got someone on today, a special guest, Brittanie Betti from BETSON, and we're going to talk about arcades in your facility. What's going on, Brittanie? Good to see you.
Not much. How's it going out there, Jeff?
Oh, it's going great, going great. Seems like we've been running into each other the past couple of weeks from this recording
Yes,
day.
sir.
You know? It's always good to see you. You're full of information. Now I'm going to ask you just to ignore my voice. I'm about to lose my voice, but we're going to keep this podcast rolling, okay?
All right. Sounds good. Let's do this.
Okay, Brittanie. So let's talk about those who are thinking about an FEC and they want arcades in their facility. How can you help from the very beginning of stage one?
So stage one, are we talking about they actually have a facility, a building, or are we talking about finding a building?
They have found the building and they've got X amount of square footage that they want to use for their arcade, and they call up BETSON. What can they expect from that?
So first of all, we like to take a look at what your main attractions are in your facility. That has a little bit of play into your game selection, because that also has an effect on what your target demographics are. Soft play versus laser tag, bowling, go-karting, you name it. So we'll take a look at those attractions to target demographics that we're aiming towards in the arcade. Then we're going to look at where you're planning on placing your arcade, because that's going to have a lot of effect on your revenue. It's not something that you want to tuck in the back corner of your facility or put in a separate closed off room at the end of a bowling concourse. It's something that should kind of be in your face, front and center. We all know mom can't resist the little kid that's kicking and screaming because they want to play the video game or they want to win that redemption prize. So to that point, if you can hide the arcade from your kid, people might actually do that so that they don't have to spend the extra money or the extra time in the facility. So the more it's in your face, the better. You want to be kind of forced to walk through the arcade if you can. And you don't want to separate the arcade too much. You don't want to put like 10 pieces in this part of the facility and 10 pieces in another part. Then we'll take a look at your square footage and see, even though your arcade, your AutoCAD or your dimensions given to you from your landlord might say you have, let's say, 5,000 square feet for your arcade. You got to take out the usable space of that arcade. You have to leave room for walkways, for doorways. You might have storage rooms, exits, you name it. So we have to leave queuing room for laser tag if it's near your laser tag. So once we subtract all that stuff and get your real square footage number, then we will take that and we'll divide that. It used to be 60 square feet, but these games are getting so big now. Just for conservative reasons, we've gone all the way up to 70 square feet. So if you take that, divide that number, whichever it is, by 70, that's going to give you your quantity of games. Number one advice I can say to people too, because the first question we always get is, hey, can I get a catalog of your games with pricing? We've got about... God, I think we're up to about 36 Excel sheets worth of product titles, which would be quite intimidating to go through, as you know, Jeff.
You're definitely right.
So we like to take that load off of you and give you our expertise, which is why you would come to us. We know what games make money. And, Jeff, I believe you can attest to this as well. You'd be surprised. The games that we usually like are probably the ones that do the worst in
Yeah.
the arcade.
Yeah, you're right. If it's not what we want, it's what the guests want. And
Yeah.
you're exactly right with that. It does make a difference.
Yeah. And people don't realize, it's not only just what the guests want, but it's also how many swipes or dollars can you get inserted into that game within an hour, right? So if you have
Right.
5 minutes of gameplay, it limits your swipes. So that's why some of these quick play redemption games are going to be, high ticket, high earners for you guys.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then so that being said, once you have the quantity of games, we'll help you with your selection again based off of your demographics, who we're trying to attract. Obviously, you have your main pieces that go in there that people kind of expect to see, air hockeys, basketballs, skee balls, that kind of stuff. But then there's the other stuff that's out there that you might never have seen before. So we come in there, we give you your game selection, and based on your demographic is going to determine like how high your video category is. Like what percentage of your room is going to be video games? Is it going to be 20% or is it going to be closer to 30% of your room? That being said, when you have a more adult crowd, such as, the most commonly known locations would be like Dave and Buster's, Main Event. When you have a location like that, you're typically getting a more adult crowd because they're there to, just have some food, play with friends, and then get out the door. Not too interested in the little green army men and the little Tootsie Rolls they can win for their 5 tickets. So you will have a little bit more of a video category. You will also have a higher video category if you want to offer time play to people, hey, pay $10 and come in here and you can play all you want for an hour. So do you do that at your facility, Jeff?
Uh, yes, we do. We do that as well. And it seems to be working pretty good. I don't know how many Tootsie Rolls we've given out, but we've given out one or two, I know. But yeah, we have several things to offer to the adults in the redemption counter as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, putting things that attract the adults so you're also getting them playing in the arcade. Things like dartboards. I think Xboxes appeal to the little kid and all the adults that are out there.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, and even that, who wants to front $400 or $500 for an Xbox? So I've been told you can find a box on eBay for about $1 or so that you can get from someone and just put it on your counter, because no one's going to win that in one day, right? So the super savers, like as we like to call them, are the ones that come in, months later and redeem their, 300,000 tickets.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we base your categories of your demographic again. So you got your video category, you have your self merchandisers, which is going to be your instant prize. So cranes, hard goods merchandisers. There's plenty of those out there. You got the really big cranes. You got the, fantastic prizes, find a keys. There's so many options out there nowadays. I feel like almost every manufacturer is getting into the crane business these days.
Yeah.
But it's what makes money. Those are like your retail stores. That's your impulse play, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
And then next you have your tickets to prizes, which we call redemption.
Right.
And that's going to be usually close to almost 65% of your room. Now you don't have to do redemption, but that's, usually the bread and butter of most arcades. If you don't have room, let's say you're doing only 15 pieces, so it doesn't really warrant having a redemption counter, you can always do, something like a prize hub, which is like a prize vending machine. The thing is that if you have probably below 25 pieces, I like to say, you usually tend to not have enough variety in your room that people want to, people aren't going to keep playing the same game over and over again to win 100,000 tickets for your prize counter.
Yeah.
So that would be, first steps. I know it's a lot,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of science behind it.
Yeah, there is. But you mentioned something very important. I was thinking about an arcade, and I'll be honest, I was one of them. I really didn't think about the room needed for a redemption area. The redemption counter, because that does draw everyone to your arcade. They want to win those prizes. So really, the beginning stage too, Brittany, and I'm glad you brought it up, is don't forget about that redemption area, because it's a big deal, and a lot of times, and probably 100% of the times, your redemption is going to be set up by the door, and that will be the last impression. Like I've said before, they could be having fun all day on a Saturday in your facility, and your guest has one bad experience when they're going out at the redemption counter, and there you go with a bad Google review, and it
Yeah.
kills their whole day of fun. So very important
Yeah, that
stuff.
brings up a good point too, Jeff. It's important to be efficient with your layout and design of your facility. So, if you have that redemption counter that's kind of offset from everything else, and you can't really combine it on your slow days, like job wise, someone
Mhm.
can work the checkout counter, which is the checkout check-in counter, which is also your redemption counter sometimes. A lot of bowling centers tend to do it that way because people are coming to return their shoes and everything anyway. If you have that counter that's off in the distance, we've seen people where they just close it and put a sign and it's like, oh, need help? Come find someone. Does
Yeah.
a mom at the end of their total experience want to come find someone with their tired kid who just wants to get their plushie prize or whatever it might be and go home? If you can't find anyone, and then it just doesn't look as good either.
Right.
So it's important. It's like a bad dessert at the end of a meal.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about another important item here, discussion with your arcade. So we've got a new facility that's opened up. They have arcades. Uh, let's talk about a good way to price those. I know in the very beginning, pricing your arcade with your demographic is pretty difficult at first, but there are ways to do that. Can Betson help out with that?
Yeah, of course. When we set you up, we're gonna help and kind of get your games priced. There's two things involved in it, right? We want to be, national pricing, right? There's certain games that just across the board.
Mhm.
And for those of you that don't think it actually happens, people talk. Arcade Heroes, Twitch, all these people talk about don't go to this arcade. They charge $2 more for this game, and you can play it over here for $3, whatever it might be. And then it's also, there's certain things that go into your price per play, right? So a lot of us sit there and go, oh, no big deal, I'll just raise the price, a quarter on every game. I know we're dealing with inflation and increased minimum wages, so people are kind of trying to adjust their prices, but it's important that you think about what your ticket payouts are on your redemption games as well, and what the gameplay value is, right?
Mhm.
Um, so if you're getting good value for your gameplay, you might actually play it more. So uh, a lot of people are afraid to bring down prices. A lot of people are afraid, to increase. So it's a double-edged sword, right? So the nice part is hopefully you're working on getting a card reader system if you are opening a new arcade, because like a credit card, people don't think about what they're spending as much, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying you want to rip them off, because they definitely notice that as well. We get
Mhm.
asked all the time. So before I get into actual pricing, we get asked all the time, what if I want to do like credits or chips instead of, this game costs $1?
Uh-huh.
The only important thing that I can say to people is, listen, you can try it. It usually doesn't work very well if you cannot, as a customer, almost do the math and kind of figure out what, four credits equals $1, right? So one
Right.
credit is a quarter. Okay, I can do the math in my head. How I put in this much money, I got this many credits, right?
Right.
Um, but if people are going to facilities, I've seen facilities where it's like, this game is 5.2 credits, like, what is that? And then you have $20 on your game card, and within 5 minutes, that $20 is gone, and you go, where did it go? What,
Yeah.
like, I don't even know what I just spent. So
Yeah.
the point is, you don't want your customers to feel like you're secretly trying to rip them off. Not to
Right.
say that that's what you're trying to do, but that's, that's the impression that customers will get.
Yeah.
So it's important to, focus on how you do your pricing, how you, mark up your prizes, everything. Like I said, so when we set you up, we will give you recommended pricing. Your games should, pay out normally. You usually want to check up on your games, maybe 6 weeks after you open or every 6 weeks after you make a change, because that gives you enough time for things to level out.
Hmm.
Check in on your reporting, see if a game is giving out too many tickets or too little tickets based on your average price per play, right? And
That's it.
that's going to be based on, like I said, your gameplay. So if it's quick play redemption, you're going to give out a higher amount of tickets, closer to 30-35%. If it's, video game redemption, something like a Crossy Roads or even like Down the Clown style carnival games, you're going to hover more around 25%. And then if it's a game that people could almost play or even do play without tickets and still be totally satisfied, like a basketball or skee ball, it's going to be 15% payout, right?
That's
Which
it.
usually equates to an overall payout in your arcade of around 30%. So that being said, the price per play will affect what your payout ends up being if you don't mess around with programming. So my point being, as we increase prices or decrease prices with the change in the economy, or because you feel like you can get more,
Yeah. Yeah,
we have
exactly.
to be cognizant of what we're doing as our payouts for everything. So we see that a lot. Like there's some games such as Big Bass Wheel, Whack and Win, Ticket Monster, yes, Monster Drops, that you order the ticket value on the wheel based on your price per play. So if you're going to change that price per play, it's going to bring your payout down. And you'll see that game, the earnings or the ranking in your room go down a bit because your customers, believe it or not, even though they're usually a little bit younger, they do notice when a game doesn't pay out tickets. The
Yeah.
same way we notice the slot machine isn't paying out at the casino.
Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. And another thing that's very important too, for your guest, move your arcade around once every 6, 7, 8 months or something like that. That gives it a new feel, a new vibe whenever they walk in, and they or even think you've got some new games. So
Yep.
it's there's a lot of tips and tricks out there, and you're still being fair to your customer. Of course, we're talking about payouts and everything, and credits. It's we try our best to make it fair for everybody, for the guests and for us, and we are in the business to make a dollar.
Yep.
However, I totally agree. You don't want to do anything to rip off your guests. That's for sure. You do not want that name, and that's not what it's all about. So we're
Yep.
in a fun business. We have a lot of fun, and that's what we want to do. So
Well,
anyway, yeah,
exactly that, Jeff, right? We're not just selling, we're not like a retail store just selling you a t-shirt or a pair
right,
of jeans, we're selling an experience, right? We sell
exactly,
fun, right? Like your job is not really the FEC world. Your job is like you're in the industry of fun, really. And
exactly,
if people don't have that experience, like people should be happy at your facility. This is a place
exactly.
where people come to unwind, have a good time with their family. There's something for everybody,
Yep.
so I mean, you have to the importance of we talk about this all the time, and people, I think all of us are guilty of this, is we forget at times to just take a moment and go into your business and just look at it from the customer's perspective, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. There's several times I'll go in, just in my regular street clothes and just sit back and watch and see all the smiles. I'm thinking, it was worth it all the sweat and tears that were put
Yeah.
into building this so quickly. And that shows that your community is supporting it and they're having a good time, and that's your goal, to be in that fun business. So
Yep.
do you happen to have one word of advice for someone that's thinking about opening up a facility? Just one piece of advice.
Yeah, yeah. So I like to say this. So first of all, we're a very, very friendly industry. I think you can attest to that, Jeff. Everybody talks to everyone. I mean, an FEC in New Jersey could come talk to Jeff and say, hey, give me advice on your facility. And guess what? Jeff will tell them. There's no trade secrets, if you will. Everybody's here to help everybody. So my main point of advice would be, trust your vendors. They're not trying to, steer you in the wrong direction, because I tell people, listen, the beauty of what we sell, what I love about what we sell, is if I do my job right, you're happy, you're making money. We have a very healthy, happy relationship. I'm not selling you something that you have to buy no matter what, right? Mm-hmm. So trust your vendors. And, and also, last but not least, I think it's something that, it's very hard. I don't know if you would agree with this, Jeff, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I truly don't believe that it's something that you just dip your toes in the water, because if you do it, halfway, if you do your FEC halfway, whether it be the arcade, the bowling, your customer's experience is going to be totally different. And if you're trying to use that as a gauge on whether or not you should invest fully in it, mm-hmm. then I don't think you're really going to get your true value or see the true value in what you're investing in. And again, trust your vendors. They're not going to let you get into it. I'm not going to sell you 60 arcade games when your facility really should only have 30,
Exactly. Well, that's good stuff. Good stuff, Brittanie. And I know you got a lot of planning to do, and you got a busy day ahead of you. But I do really, really appreciate your time. Got a lot of respect for you, and you've been a good friend in this industry, and I'm sure I'll continue seeing you out on the road or in the air, whatever it may be.
Well, we'll be seeing you at IAPA, I hope, right?
We'll be at IAPA. Charlotte and I will both be there. So, we're definitely going to come say hi to you. But thank you so much for your time on this podcast. I know the viewers love it. That was very, very good information for those thinking about and already decided to put an arcade in their facilities. So we want to thank you too, folks, for joining us once again for the FEC World Podcast. Don't forget to go to YouTube, the FEC World Podcast with Jeff Pierce, and click subscribe. Hit the little bell button so you'll get notified when these podcasts pop up, as well as going to the Facebook page, the FEC World Podcast with Jeff Pierce. Make sure you like, share, follow, tag, and comment. Let us know what you want to hear on the FEC World Podcast. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Thank you for taking the time to enjoy this episode of the FEC World Podcast with Jeff Pierce. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, filled with industry secrets and exciting updates. Be sure to subscribe to this show, leave us a review, and let us know what you think. Join us next week for more captivating interviews and essential tips from the FEC world. See you soon on the next FEC World Podcast.